Hello everyone, welcome to episode 43 of Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite dub techno producers of all time, someone that's been around for a long time, since really around 2004 he started releasing dub techno, and that is Octal Industries. Now initially when Octal Industries started out, it was a duo. It was Jonas Gudmundsson and Michael Sickinger. Michael dropped out of the group, and at this point, Octal Industries is just Jonas. So I have 5 records today that I have accumulated gradually over my years of collecting that I'm gonna review for you guys here. The first Octal release that I'm gonna talk about is a recent one, and it's the Julia Sets EP. Now this comes in 2 colors. There's a black version and a bright green version. I went with the black one because you guys know I try to avoid the colored vinyl when I can. And the track that I like on here is called Wildfire. Now, Wildfire, the whole hook of the track to me is just a single element. And I've said this before, sometimes a track just has one element that's really awesome in it and it sets the whole thing off. In this case, that element in this track is the hi-hat. The hi-hat is just like a classic techno hi-hat that's drawn out a little bit longer than they normally are. And I feel like that hi-hat just sits with the rest of the track and gives it a nice, really chuggy momentum. I featured this record here in my After Hours video vinyl mix number 3, which is one of my most popular ones that I've uploaded. So if you guys like the vibe of this track and you want to check out some other beats that kind of fit into this semi-techno, semi-dub techno type vibe, go and take a listen to that. The one thing I want to point out about Jonas's productions, and you'll see this as I'm going through some of these clips here, is that although he can be a dub techno producer, he can also make techno that is just not dub techno at all, or sometimes a fusion or a hybrid thereof, right? So you might get techno tracks when he produces with M.A.M.P, and M.A.M.P is like a duo that he matches up with, and M.A.M.P and him will generally produce techno tracks, and they're a little bit weird and esoteric and eccentric, but they're not necessarily dub techno. But if you're playing a dub techno set and you want to add a little bit of variety in there, get away from the washy sounds and just give it a little bit more punch, that's where an M.A.M.P and Octal Industries type record will come into play. This one here is, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Hemmingleva. And I have to tell you guys, purple is my favorite color, so I was immediately drawn to this when I caught wind of it. It's a really, really nice marbled vinyl here. And there's 3 versions on this vinyl. Now they all basically sound similar, but not the same. I don't want to say that they even sound the same. There's a common theme in the way that the tracks are built here, and it goes across all 3 tracks. For example, Hemmingleva 1 is probably the most like dub techno out of the 3. Hemmingleva 2 is a little bit more dub with the type of bass line, and Hemmingleva 3 is actually like a tech house track. I've played Hemmingleva 3 in tech house sets, and it goes in there really nice. You have to pitch it up a little bit because it's kind of slow, but it has really cool percussion. I've talked about different percussion sounds before. I've made fun of tracks that sound like Duka Dukes. This one's a Taka Taka. This is a Taka Taka record, and I love it. I realize that this is hard to get. You might be able to get it for 50 or 60 bucks. I have a feeling that this is not gonna repress. Just looking at the label that it's on and the nature of the record and how it was released, some of them come in with a CD, some of them not. I just feel like this isn't gonna repress. So if you really like the sound of this, you might just have to, kind of save up and invest in it one day. The next track that I'm going to talk about for Octal Industries is actually the remix EP. Now, if you guys follow my channel, you'll see that I did an interview with Andy Green that runs Verdant Recordings last week, or last weekend rather. He recently released a remix pack of Octal Industries, and he called it Changing Seasons. It's remixes that are based on the Octal Industries album Our Seasons. The track that I've selected for you out of this whole pack is the Mike Schamer remix. I want to show you guys how nice these vinyls turned out. Again, I'm partial to the color purple, and I realize that gives me a bias here, but I really think these turned out so nice here. You're looking at the ASC remix on the A1, and there's also a grit on the B1. If you guys are grit fans, this turned out really nice too. It was hard for me to decide which track to feature on here, but I went with the Mike Schamer because I like how Mike Schamer is so original anymore with his productions. He makes dub techno and dub, but he really stays outside of the standard templates. So you're not getting like your traditional run-of-the-mill dub techno tracks with the washes and like the punchy kicks and the traditional dub bass lines. He'll throw in different tempos and different sounds, and he just creates ambient spaces that you want to sit in. And I think that's why, although it was a very tough decision, I did go with the Mike Schamer on this. Again, there's some other really cool tracks on here. The ASC is awesome if you like that like hyper percussive type track that ASC has been making in recent years. And there's also the Octal Industries version on the C and D side, which are excellent as well. The next one I want to talk about is this one here. This is M.A.M.P and Octal Industries, and it's called the Adaptation EP. The track that I like on here is called Sunset. It's very punchy and percussive, and this is an example of M.A.M.P and Octal Industries pairing up but not making a dub techno record. This is a record that would go really nice, however, in a dub techno set if you wanted to crank up the energy a little bit later on. It has the same kind of reverby, spatial vibe to it, where it feels like it's taking place in an open space, and the sounds have a chance to kind of bounce around the room and ricochet. This would really go off in a warehouse. It's a warehouse record, in my opinion. There are also some other people that commented on this on Discogs that didn't, I'm sure they like Sunset, but they also talked about the other tracks on here being great too, and I agree. This is a nice, solid, functional club record if you want something to spice up your dub techno sets with. And the last record I'm gonna feature is probably the most rare out of the whole episode, and that is the Deep Chord versus Octal Industries that came out in 2006. Now, this record was really hard to get. I had this back in 2008. I bought it, and somebody got it for me for Christmas, actually. And like a dummy, I sold it. And the reason I sold it is because something happened at my work where my local income tax or my federal income tax got jumbled up, and they didn't take the right amount out. And all of a sudden, I got hit with a $2,000 or $3,000 bill that I wasn't expecting to. And I wasn't really financially stable at the time. So I was selling records, and kind of a spur of the moment decision, I sold this off, and I regretted it, I would say within 6 months or a year later, because, you know, it's just so hard to get. Now, if you look on Discogs, people have, you know, asked nicely, begged for represses and stuff. And this, as the story is going now, the record, the original master copy or whatever it's called, got destroyed somehow. So we only really have these 100 copies to work with. I was able to recently acquire another copy, which I'm super thankful for. One thing that's interesting about this, it's really nice orange vinyl. One thing that's interesting about it is that both copies that I had this really subtle crease here where the label meets the spindle. And the picture, if you look online, has that too. So it's kind of like a unique feature that every copy of this, I think, has a little split or crinkle in the black label around here. Now the track Arrival on here is really cool too, but you can get that on Styrax Leaves, that label, for a reasonable price, maybe $10 to $20. Deep Chords track Departure on the B-side is super cool, and I think the reason that it's one of the best Deep Chords / Octal Industries tracks that was ever made is because of the bongo loop that goes off in the second half of the track. So in traditional Deep Chord style, the track opens up with washes and you know, just like a nice soft traditional dub techno thump, and then this bongo loop starts rolling and getting more momentum and becoming louder and louder, and it slowly shifts the focus of the track from the washes and the traditional thumps to just the bongo loop, and that carries out for about, I don't know, the last 3 to 4 minutes of the track. So if you're gonna mix out of this, you have tons of time to work with, and you can really create some cool effects if you pick a good record to play this into. I've always been partial to tracks that have bongos. I think that's why I like Joe Claussell records so much. And this is something that I just feel is really special, and those drums sound totally perfect. So that's all I have for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed my analysis here. I hope you learned some new picks. Jonas, thank you for the awesome records over the years. I always check out everything that you make when you pair up with M.A.M.P. I know you guys create a lot of content. There are some really interesting stuff on there. And thank you so much for all of your music. Take care, guys. Peace.